name for themselves. You look at IRD and Trade Me.
Yes, the IRD have come after Trade Me. They went to them and said, look, give us all the names of the people that are on there. Trade Me sort of tried to fight back a bit, but they've had to hand over 45,000 names, basically to IRD, giving all their details, their personal details, their full transaction history, and basically every bit of information possible.
So that's going to get a whole lot of people from IRD pretty busy for the next couple of months.
It is, and it's because they've gone after those that are on there trading or sort of buying goods and then on selling them for a profit, and there's a lot of it going on. It's also, they're aware that there's people that are selling stuff on there that potentially aren't in their books anymore, and trying to make a bit of quick cash to put in their back pocket that IRD don't get any tax on.
So how does that work? You bring it down, you devalue it.
Yeah, well, basically, like, you've got some assets in your book. Let's say you've had them for 15 odd years. It's down to a couple of dollars in your financial statements. So you tell the accountant, look, just write it off. I don't have it anymore. And then, of course, we write it off. We don't think it exists, and they flick it on Trade Me and you know, put $1,000 or something like that on it, and hopefully sell it for that money, and we don't hear about it.
If somebody's been doing that, Kerry, are they able to come clean and ring IRD and say, well, ring you and say, listen, we better declare what I've been doing?
Definitely, yeah. They've got to go to IRD with a voluntary disclosure. There's a proper form to fill out. They're going to have to be upfront and honest as to why they've done it. They can't sort of say, oh, I forgot, because it's pretty obvious they're doing it. They're going to have to say, oh, they didn't realise it wasn't in the books or something, you know, come up with some feeble excuses, basically, is what they're going to be. And then you're at the mercy of IRD. They're going to come after them for penalties and interest.
But it's best to actually face them now rather than have IRD knocking on your door.
Yeah, you don't want them coming to you, because that's when they're going to come heavy-handed. They're going to say, look, you didn't pay the tax, we're going to charge the full amount of penalties. Whereas you're up front and do your voluntary disclosure, you can actually get a lower penalty rate, because they'll write some off, or they'll give you extra time to pay. There's a few ways to negotiate your way through it, but not if they come to you first. You've got very little left to argue with.
See your chartered accountant?
Definitely, yep. Go and talk to your accountant and tell them that you've been doing it, and sort of disclose all.
Over a period of time, you and I have discussed drought relief as far as IRD are concerned, and perhaps delaying provisionals. Is that we got through that for most of the country?
We're finding a lot of the dairy farmers we've been dealing with, they've been able to get through it. They're hanging in there. Their cash reserves are getting a bit low now, but they have been able to do, especially in the instalment arrangement with IRD, and say to them, look, you know, we've got like this tax due sort of around this time. They're saying, look, we can't afford to pay it all in full. Can we pay it off over 12 months? And IRD are pretty understanding. They'll work with you. They're not there to put you out of business. They know the dairy farmers are having a hard time.
Well, not just dairy farmers. There's a lot of
farmers, yes, yeah. But the dairy ones are the ones that's really focused on. And if you ring up and say, look, I want to pay it off, they say, yep, how much do you want to pay a month?
Or how much can you pay a month? Yeah.
Yeah, well, they don't even ask that. They just say, how much do you want to pay? And you tell them your figure. So instead of you having to sort of justify it, they're just going with that figure. So it's been pretty good of IRD, actually.
Does that mean that they don't add all the penalties and bits and pieces on?
They don't add the penalties, but they still charge you the interest.
Yeah, okay.
So at the moment, they've just announced the interest rate's going up to 9.21%. So it's fairly hefty, but it's cheaper than some of the overdraft rates out there that we've seen.
Yeah, okay. Now, IRD, bless their hearts, have been trying to simplify the tax system.
Yep, they've been working with the government, and the government's just come out with what they call a green paper, where they're trying to say, look, we want to bring the tax system into the 21st century. Here's some ideas we've got, and they've got some outstanding ideas. It's great. They're quite exciting, and they're wanting people to sort of get involved, comment, get feedback, and just generally try and help revamp the tax system, because it's been around for a long time, and they know it's hard for business in terms of costs.
It sort of sounds like the regional councils and the Resource Management Act, doesn't it?
Yes, yeah. Except they're going to be more proactive in this one and get it right.
So, Kerry, basically, how do people get in touch with the possible changes or the ideas?
Well, the first step is this green paper has come out. If you haven't got a copy, get a copy of it, because it outlines things to especially provisional tax and PAYE. And so you can have a good read of that. They've got some questions in there, and then over the next sort of year and a half, something like that, they're going to start reducing a lot of discussion papers, and that's where they'll ask more detailed information, and you can make a formal submission as to what you think they should be doing. And it's your opportunity to get in there, because they want to hear from businesses and farmers, etc. out there, exactly what they're facing and what they want to see.
That's good, isn't it, that they're doing that?
Oh, it's great. It needed to be done. One of the big things I've realised that provisional tax is very, very hard on business. You know, 3 lump sums payments a year is just crippling for some. So they've come out and said, look, we want to revamp that whole thing, and here's an idea of what we've got. And then they want to see whether it's going to work for people, and and whether it's easy to manage.
I guess especially with new businesses, because you set up and then you've got the terminal tax, and at the end of that,
Yes, yeah.
and
So
then all
your
of a
first year,
sudden,
you effectively,
wallop.
you've got no cash going out for tax, and your second year, you get hit hard with 2 years. With their proposed system, it would make it easier. You still got that sort of big hit coming, but it's spread out more, so you can sort of plan better for your cash flow.
Because that's what the average, I think there's about 80% of businesses get into major trouble in the first 5 years.
Yes, definitely. And tax is normally the first thing that gets them. After that, it's normally people not pricing right or something like that. But tax is normally the crippler.
Yeah, it is indeed. So what are they trying to do? Make it level for us people?
They're trying to make it easier for people to pay their tax. So one of the proposals, instead of paying it 3 times a year for your provisional tax, you pay it more regularly. So you pay it as you go sort of thing, like PAY effectively for permanent employees, except businesses will do that monthly. So you don't have to sort of save up and then suddenly all this cash goes out. You can say, right, over the next 12 months, I'm going to have, say, $3,000 a month to pay, and you can budget accordingly.
Are they going to do something like a withholding for contractors?
That's still there, but they're looking at that system as well. At the moment, an employer has to go on the 20th of every month, pay it to IRD and file a whole pile of paperwork. They actually want to get to the point where you file it as you go. So every time you do pay for somebody, it effectively gets updated to IRD.
So yeah, I mean, it is quite revolutionary,
Yeah.
because we lead the world, I understand, in gathering it, but we're
Yeah, exactly. And it's going to cut down a whole pile of paperwork, which is what we want, but they are going to make you do it more computerised, which is not a bad thing.
Well, I
That's
don't
where the
think
world's heading. So if you're not there, you're going to find it hard.
Look at our program On the Land. I mean, it's
Exactly.
all tied up with websites and YouTubes and things that
Yes.
boys like me don't actually understand, but we don't need to.
No, exactly. So that's where they're heading, though. They want it to all be done through some sort of software provider. So you'll just do, process your pay, for example, click a button and IRD automatically gets the information.
I mean, it's like GST now. I mean, I don't think anybody does it with a cheque anymore.
We've probably got about 3 or 4% of our practice that do, but they're
3 or 4%
But to be
of
fair,
your
they're sort of
practice.
70-odd years or older, and that's all they know is just checks.
Yeah.
But most of them, it's all online now. That's the best way.
And so we're moving on, aren't we?
Yes.
And I guess that means that somebody like yourself can have clients all around the world.
Yeah, and we have. We've got them all around now. It means that there's no boundaries anymore. It does mean that IRD get a bit more coming in, of course, because they can spread their reach further. But there's nothing wrong with that.
No, because, every dollar that they gain from somebody else is a dollar that they don't have to worry about.
Exactly, yeah.
And as we've always said, don't mess with the IRD because they'll get you.
They always do in the end, yes. Yeah.
And do talk to your chartered
You
accountant.
need to, yeah. Get your account update on everything.
Kerry, thank you very much indeed. Kerry will be very regular here on the land. In fact, about every fortnight, giving you a bit of an insight as far as accounting is concerned, farm accounting, IRD, and things you can save money on and things you can benefit from and things you shouldn't really have an attempt at.